Hello and welcome to Pandora FMS. In this video, we'll teach you how to set up and configure a history database for the oldest Pandora FMS Metaconsole data. You may find the whole explanation of how a history database works, its options and references to parameters, the binary file PandoraDB and more in the link that we will leave you in the description, in the video history database configuration. It is essential to watch the video before proceeding with configuration in the Metaconsole in order to understand what this very important feature for our enterprise environment is for. The history database in the Metaconsole has the same function as the one you could find for a node, that is, storing all data. But in this case, most of the stored data will be based on those obtained from the services and events. The latter, which are based on the information of the nodes, are very important for centralized monitoring. Once these factors are understood, let's proceed with the configuration. To activate the use of the history database in the Metaconsole, you must have certain sections. To begin with, your environment will be made up of 3 instances, 2 nodes, and a Metaconsole to carry out centralization, in addition to an extra server, preferably Rocky Linux 8 or CentOS 8, which will host the history database. On this machine, you will have to install only a database manager, which can be MySQL or Persona. In this case, we will use Persona Server 5.7. Once you have installed the database and configured the root parameters, the next thing you have to do is access the manager with your credentials and create the history database. In this case, we will call it Pandora History, but you may call it whatever you wish. After creating the database, create a user to which to give permissions to get the remote connection between the Metaconsole and the history. Create it using the create user command. In this case, we will call it Pandora. Once the user is created, give permissions with grant all privileges to Pandora history database to the user Pandora with a percentage symbol. This will allow connections from any machine connected to the network. In the event that you only want the Metaconsole and the node to be able to connect to the history database, you have to add the IP addresses from where you want the connection to take place. Finally, add identified by with the password that you want to be able to access the database. In this case, we type in Pandora. When finished, execute the command flush all privileges so that the changes are applied instantly without having to restart the manager. You may check from a machine connected to the network whether remote connection to the history database is working using the parameter -h, which allows you to remotely access the IP address you provide. Once verified that the connection is successful, you may proceed with the configuration in the Metaconsole. Go to the Metaconsole in section Configuration Meta Setup. Once there, go to the button located in the upper right menu that refers to the history database. Select the checkbox Enable History Database, and once done, add the parameters previously configured for remote connection. In Host, add the IP address of the history database, and in Port section, enter the port of your database manager. In this case, leave the one that comes by default 3306. As for section database name, enter the name of the database that you created previously, in this case Pandora History. In database user, enter the user that you enabled for remote connection, in this case Pandora. And finally, in database password, the password that you previously configured in the terminal, in this case Pandora. Once all parameters have been added, click Update. If everything went well and the connection was a success, you will have the Metaconsole connected to a history database. For more information about the additional parameters that can be configured and how the binary maintenance file PandoraDB works, which goes hand in hand with the history database, we recommend you to watch the video that you will find in the description below and that we already discussed at the beginning of this video. Once you're done with this setup, each time the maintenance task PandoraDB is executed, the data that meets the condition of taking the indicated time will be transferred to the history database. All times will depend on the environment's load, but we recommend that the database be saved for a maximum of 1 month in the main database before being transferred to the history database. And that was it for today's video. Don't forget it, if you liked the video, smile, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe. Any suggestions, questions, or ideas, please leave them in the comments below. Remember that if you're interested in trying Pandora for Mass Enterprise, you may contact us to get a free 30-day trial. Thank you very much for your time, and we hope to see you on social media and in future learning videos.